For 50 years, a 600-ton giant sat silent, presumed dead, its glory days vanished. But when the impossible move of Union Pacific 4014 began, engineers gambled on reviving not just America's most powerful steam locomotive, but an entire era of innovation. What would it take to bring back a legend built for mountains and war, and why did the world care enough to try? The answer began with a single signature. Beneath layers of dust and the weight of half a century, the silhouette of Union Pacific 4014 holds court over a forgotten rail yard. Its sheer mass, over 600 tons of steel and iron, stretches longer than most city blocks, a silent witness to an era when machines like this were built to conquer the impossible. The 4-8 four-wheel arrangement, a marvel of American engineering, was not designed for show. It was born from necessity. In the early 1940s, the Wasatch Mountains stood as a stubborn barrier between the nation's heartland and the Pacific, their punishing grades chewing through lesser engines and stalling freight vital to a country at war. American Locomotive Company, known simply as ALCO, answered the call with the Big Boy, 25 locomotives forged for brute strength and relentless endurance. Each one was crafted to haul thousands of tons of wartime supplies and post-war cargo up mountain passes where the air thins and the rails glint with frost. Crews worked in shifts, anonymous but essential, their hands blackened by coal and sweat as they coaxed these giants through tunnels and snowdrifts. Now, as sunlight filters through broken windows and dances across rusted driver wheels, 4014 stands as both relic and legend. The scale of its ambition is etched into every bolt and bearing, a testament to the era's faith in engineering and the raw will of those who kept America's arteries moving. This is not just a machine, it is the memory of a nation in motion, waiting for someone to believe it could live again. On a warm July day in 2013, hands were shaken and signatures pressed into paper, sealing the agreement that would send Big Boy 4014 on a journey few believed possible. Union Pacific executives and Rail Giants Museum trustees gathered around a stack of documents, the air thick with both anticipation and the weight of stewardship. The deal was more than a transfer. It was a promise. Union Pacific would return 4014 to a living, breathing ambassador, and the museum would receive another historic locomotive in her place. As the ink dried, teams of logistics planners and safety crews began mapping a route that spanned 1,390 miles from Pomona, California to Cheyenne, Wyoming. Every mile demanded careful calculation. The locomotive, dormant for over 50 years, would have to be coaxed out from her display, guided over temporary panel tracks, and eased onto the main line with inch-by-inch precision. The journey unfolded as a moving spectacle. Crews inspected every foot of rail ahead, checking for weak bridges and tight curves that could threaten the safe passage of 600 tons of steel. At every town along the route, the spectacle drew crowds by the thousands. Flags waved, cameras flashed, and children clung to fences, their faces lit with awe. Elderly rail fans, some of whom remembered 4014's glory days, wiped away tears as the giant rolled past, towed by modern diesels, but unmistakably alive in the eyes of the nation. The support team faced real-time challenges, unexpected weather delays, a derailed tender truck, and mechanical checks that brought the convoy to a halt more than once. Each stop became a gathering point, the locomotive's presence reviving old memories and sparking new dreams. By the time 4014 reached Cheyenne, she had crossed deserts, mountains, and the collective imagination of a country eager to witness the return of a legend. Demolition began with a thunder that rattled the old shop's bones. Crews attacked the false ceilings first, sending decades of plaster and insulation tumbling down in clouds of dust. Shafts of daylight pierced the gloom, illuminating the cavernous space and revealing just how much height the Big Boy demanded. The original shop, built for smaller engines, had to be reimagined from the ground up. Walls echoed with the clang of crowbars and the grind of saws as workers carved out every inch of clearance. Once the debris was cleared, attention shifted to the heart of the transformation, a new overhead crane engineered to lift 40 tons in a single motion. Installation took weeks of careful alignment and reinforcement. Steel beams, each weighing thousands of pounds, were hoisted and bolted into place above the shop floor. The arrival of the crane changed everything. For the first time, crews could contemplate lifting entire engine assemblies, massive wheels, and boiler sections with the push of a button. The machinery glided silently along its rails, its hooks swinging gently in the filtered light, a promise of new capability. The shop itself became an industrial cathedral. Fresh light spilled from new windows, glinting off freshly painted girders and the polished surfaces of heavy tools. Every detail spoke to a renewed sense of purpose. This was no longer a relic's resting place, but a living workspace ready to tackle the Herculean job ahead. The team that rebuilt the shop laid the foundation for every wrench, turn, and torch cut to follow, their work an unspoken testament to the scale of what was about to begin. Inside the boiler, the air felt thick with heat and the sharp tang of old steel. Veteran boilermakers crawled through the narrow manway, flashlights strapped to their helmets, every movement echoing off the curved walls. The first task was mapping the damage. An ultrasonic technician pressed a digital probe against the shell, reading thicknesses to the hundredth of an inch. Areas worn thin by decades of corrosion flashed red on the screen, each one a warning. Apprentice machinists followed, marking the boiler with chalk, counting off the stay bolts that would have to go. Nearly 500 fasteners, each one anchoring the firebox to the outer shell, had to be cut, torched, and driven out by hand. There was no easy way, just hours spent hunched in the dark, arms wedged between pipes, sweat soaking through shirts. New bolts, machined from code-compliant steel, were threaded into place, their heads torqued and tested. Every batch was checked with dye penetrant and magnetic inspection, the crew logging results on a whiteboard taped to the shop wall. For the apprentices, this was a rite of passage. For the old hands, it was a return to the kind of work that built legends, one bolt at a time. A new obstacle waited beneath the locomotive's massive frame. The original leaf springs, forged in the 1940s to shoulder the big boy's immense weight, were now cracked and brittle, their steel fatigued beyond repair. No modern supplier could match the size or strength required. Union Pacific's metallurgist, Dr. Robert Klein, pored over faded ALCO blueprints, then turned to SAE 5160, a modern alloy known for resilience. The shop became a forge. Custom dies were built, furnaces pushed to their limits, and each spring was heat-treated, tempered, and stress-relieved by hand. Every piece faced proof load testing, 18,000 pounds pressed down, the steel arching but holding true. When the final spring passed, the test rig crew exhaled in relief. Attention shifted to the boiler. Inspectors sealed every opening, filled the vessel with water, and watched the pressure climb. On February 6, 2019, the hydrostatic gauge crept past 375 pounds per square inch. For a long minute, nothing moved but the needle. Then, success. The room filled with quiet pride. The giant was structurally sound, ready to breathe fire once more. A new ritual began with the press of a button and the hiss of oil flowing through custom-forged pipes. Where coal once thundered in the firebox, a golden stream of No. 5 fuel oil now met a burner engineered for precision. Steam atomized the oil, sending a fine mist into the heart of the giant. On April 9, 2019, the crew stood silent as the first spark leapt across the burner. In moments, the firebox glowed orange, steel plates creaked, and vapor curled from the stack. Decades of quiet broke into a rising chorus, hisses, pops, and the deep metallic song of expanding metal. As word spread, crowds gathered along the rails, drawn by the promise of something once thought impossible. On May 1st, under the Wyoming stars, 4014 rolled under its own power for the first time in nearly 60 years. By dawn, the locomotive was moving with purpose, test run bound for Nunn, Colorado. Rail fans lined the route with cameras and flags, their cheers echoing across the plains. The journey climaxed on May 9th in Ogden, Utah, where 4014 and number 844 met nose to nose, surrounded by thousands. The Giant's whistle cut through the air, a living answer to every doubt, every hour of labor, every dream of resurrection. Today, Big Boy 4014 runs on rails built for tomorrow, bridging history and innovation. As railroads face a future shaped by automation and sustainability, this living machine proves that preservation and progress can share the same track. Some giants don't just return, they remind us why we build. Share your thoughts below.